When you move with your chainsaw, you should carry it by the front handle, either with the chain brake on or with the engine switched off. You should not attempt to fell a tree of this size if you're a beginner. But once you've learned to handle the saw properly, it's easy to fell trees with a diameter up to twice the bar length. Choose the felling direction, clear around and behind the tree, line up the saw by aiming along the front handle, apply full throttle, and make the top and bottom directional cuts just as we did earlier. You make the felling cut like this. With your right elbow braced against the inside of your right knee, bring the saw into the side of the trunk and let the tip cut into it. Leave a hinge at least 1 1/4 inches wide, then move backwards around the trunk as you cut through it. When you cut just over halfway through, release the throttle, drive in the pry bar, and complete the cut. Lift the pry bar, keeping your back straight and lifting with your thigh muscles. If the felling job looks more complicated than this, then you shouldn't attempt it on your own. Ask someone with more experience to help you if the tree is larger than you thought or if you feel unsure for any reason. You should also ask for experienced help if you accidentally fell a tree against another tree so that it remains stuck, leaning against it. Never leave a tree like this unattended. If a tree has been blown down or uprooted in a storm, you should leave it to the professionals. The same applies if there are buildings, roads, power lines, or other obstacles close by. It always makes sense to ask for help, and it's much better to ask for help than to make unnecessary mistakes. Above all, it's much safer. If you don't know who to ask for help, your John Surratt dealer will be able to advise you who to turn to. Although your John Surratt saw is designed for hard work in the forest, it does require some maintenance so that you can continue to work safely and efficiently. Now we'll describe how to keep the cutting equipment in best condition, how to look after your saw in general, and what your John Surratt dealer can offer in the way of service and spare parts. We've already mentioned that a new chain must be retensioned after 20 minutes use. You should also make a habit of checking the chain tension and lubrication after every shift. You should also, at regular intervals, wash the air filter with a little lukewarm water and a mild detergent, and clean the cylinder cooling fins and chain brake band with a brush. You can read more about this in the owner's manual. Thanks to John Surratt's unique turbo air cleaning system, which blows away most of the sawdust before it reaches the air filter, you don't need to clean the filter as often on a John Surratt saw as on most other chainsaws. The sharpness of the chain is vital for effective cutting. In fact, having a sharp chain is more important than having a powerful engine. So we'll now teach you how to sharpen the chain. You'll need a round file, a flat file, and a file gauge that fits your chain. A vise will make this job easier. It lets you work with both hands. Lock the chain with the combi wrench and lay the gauge on the chain. The arrows on the gauge must point in the chain's direction of rotation. File the cutters with steady pushing strokes at an angle of 30 degrees, giving the same number of strokes to each cutter. As you can see, alternate cutters face in opposite directions, so it's easiest to file every second cutter and then turn the saw around. Please note that different brands and types of saw chain may require different gauges. However, the principle is the same for all chains. Next, you sharpen the rakers. It's the difference in height between the cutters and the rakers that controls how deep the chain bites. The height difference must be the same throughout the life of the chain. Lay the gauge in place like this and use the flat file. The appearance of the chips gives a good idea of the condition of the chain. A sharp chain produces fine